Let me go to Matt Bevin. Matt.
Yes, sir. It is good to be with you. I wish we were having this discussion under different circumstances, but
okay. So tell me, because I know you're a God-fearing man, and so am I. And man, I know what I felt, and I know that you know what you felt, and our God is not a God of frustration, and He's not a God to be thwarted. What do you take away from this? What do you think this exercise was for? Because it wasn't meaningless. What happened?
Not even a little meaningless. And this is the thing that I take from this. From the very beginning, Glenn, it was clear to me that this was something that I was obedient to. This was a path that neither my wife nor I had ever sought. This wasn't something that, frankly, I had aspired to. And yet every door continued to open and things unfolded in ways that were beyond our ability to even comprehend at times. And so in our effort to do to the best of our ability that which had been laid out before us, we found ourselves on an incredible journey. What we have seen come from this is an awakening of people, is inspiring of young people in particular in ways that would not have been there. There is a ripple effect to history that we all know. You know better than most. You talk about it a fair bit. And there is sometimes a pond that has a little stone thrown into it, and then maybe, the ripple washes up on a shore at some point far away, and nobody will necessarily correlate it to the very beginning of that motion. But here's what I'll say. I had lunch the other day, and two women came up to me who have 18-year-old sons, and I didn't know them. They introduced themselves to me, and they said both of their boys voted for the very first time. Both of them became interested in politics because of this race. Both of them had become people who, in their schools, in their classrooms, and within their own families, had gotten people to pay attention to the primary process. And one of them wants to be a judge, wants to have an impact, wants to, wants to study political science, wants to study law, wants to do things for people. Now, who knows where this young man will go? But the ripple effect of this may be greater than any of us can comprehend. And when you looked around the room that night, I don't know if you had a chance to see my concession speech, but it was actually an amazing time of celebration in many respects.
And I didn't see it. I was too busy trying to fashion a noose out of.
I tell you what, though. Here's, we could go on several tangents, but let me just say this: the people that were in that room were the demographic of those folks. Was everything that the GOP says that it wants to be, says that it needs to be.
Right.
We had older people, younger people, black folks, white folks, Hispanic folks, poor folks, rich folks. We had the entire gamut of the socioeconomic and demographic spectrum in this country. Not because we had special focus groups to get them there, not because there had been outreach committees or some kind of strategy session to reach these people and broaden the tent. Every one of these folks was there of their own volition. They had been drawn to this because of the integrity of it, because of the reality of it, because of the message of it. And this is what gives me hope. We have awakened the giant.
I know.
The giant is us. We're the giant.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
Go back to sleep.
I had no intention of saying this to you until you're on the phone, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe in a way you're supposed to. I'd like to ask you if you wanted to provide commentary or anything for the Blaze, because I think you're a voice that needs to be heard. But you just think about that and get back to me. But what are you doing now? Are you going to run again? I mean.
As I'm sure you find the same thing to be the case, people have 1,000 ideas of things you should do with your life. And I'm very gracious of them to have these thousands of ideas. And among those ideas, many people would like to see me run again. We had more than a good showing. It's interesting. Not only has no Senate leader ever lost a primary, ever in the history of the United States, but no Senate leader has ever gotten less than 75% of the vote in a primary ever in the history of this country. So for him to strut around and crow that 60 is somehow a powerful statement really flies in the face of what has been historically the case. That said, we had a strong showing and good support. And I have gotten many, many calls, and I'm grateful for them, from people that would like to see me step out again on some front. And so I'm, at this point, listening. You know, there's a Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. And at this point, I'm, to the degree that I can with 9 children and in a campaign to button up, I'm being as still as I can. I'm listening and trying to understand what it is that I should do, what it is that I could do in order to make the most advantageous next steps.
Well, Matt, you just let us know how we can help, and we're in your corner, and I mean what I said. Pat left really brokenhearted. He said, it was his final straw where he has given up on the American people. And I said, stop it. We don't understand the mind of God. We don't have any clue, and we do have to do our own work. So let's just get busy doing our own work. Everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to happen. So let us know how we can let us know how we can be of service, and we'll keep our eye on you, Matt, because I think you're an amazing man.
I appreciate that. Have you got one more second? I want to say something real quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I read out loud to my children. I'm reading, interestingly right now, The Wizard of Oz. And I'm struck by something, that The Wizard of Oz was a collection of characters, each with their own insecurities, each with their own faults and their own inabilities to get things done on their own. But collectively, they went through these seemingly daunting odds and all these perceptions that there was no hope, that nobody had ever done this, that nobody had ever gone there, that nobody had ever passed through this dark passageway. And yet together, they didn't give up. Together, they managed to accomplish things and open eyes to things and expose the fraud of things that, frankly, is somewhat parallel to where we stand in this country. I've been struck by this, that don't give up. I say to the Pats of the world, don't give up, because this country is dependent on those people who see the forest for the trees and stay the course. We have got to stay the course. There is nothing about this journey that I've been on, nothing, despite all that I have gone through, that I would not do over again in a heartbeat. Because despite the fact that we didn't get where we wanted to in this one race, I know that we have put seeds in the ground that will germinate in extraordinary ways. But we need people to come along behind, including myself, and continue to cultivate and water and fertilize and weed and thin. We're not going to harvest something by simply throwing a few seeds on the ground and then hoping something magically happens. It doesn't work that way.
Matt, thanks a lot. By the way, you should look up, if you're reading that, just for your own entertainment, you should look up the story behind, what was his name, Frank Elbaum, and speculation, but I think it's pretty well buttoned up, but speculation that he wrote that, and it all has political undertones to it. Have you read this about the gold standard?
Not, but I will, because I'm seeing it. I'm telling you, as I'm reading it, I'm struck by that.
Yeah, when you look at this, it says who the wizard is, and it's Congress, it's senators, it is the yellow brick road is gold, the ruby slippers are silver slippers, and that's when they went to the silver, instead of the gold standard. I mean, it's really an amazing story on an entirely different level once you understand what Frank Elbaum was possibly trying to tell with that story. Matt, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
God bless.